Our EuroSermons have been a bit different over these last few weeks. I've been bringing my usual EuroSermon item, seeing what it represents or symbolises. Then we've been reading in the entirety one of the great stories in the Old Testament. And then we've been asking the question, using the Euro purchase, what do we learn from the passage? What do we learn about God? What do we take away to encourage us and help us in our faith? So I've got the usual EuroSermon box here with me, the Holy Mystery box. So let me see what I bought today and put in the Holy Mystery box. Well, today I have bought some glue with me. Now you can buy glue in all sorts of ways and forms, can't you? But if you have young children or in school, you'll know that they use this glue a whole lot. It's called PVA glue, and it's kind of like a white glue, and you can buy it on all sorts of bottles. And it's brilliant, this PVA glue, because not only is it easy to squirt everywhere, and not only is it easy to stick things, and all I can think is when my kids were young, making the pasta shapes and sticking them onto paper and maybe making them in the shape of an animal or something. I'm sure you can do a lot more with PVA glue. But the great thing about PVA glue is what? Is that when it dries, not only does it dry hard and not only does it dry strong, but it dries clear. It might look white in the bottle, but when it dries, you can't see it. But you know that it's there because it has stuck everything. But the other thing, not only that I want us to see from and learn about the PVA glue, but can you see what it says on the bottle? It says sticky situation. So that's helpful because today we're going to read part of a story. And we're going to read the part of a story about a person called Moses. And Moses, to bring us up to speed, has been born in the land of Egypt. And the Pharaoh who is there doesn't like the Israelite people very much. So he makes them work very hard. But he does something terrible. He wants to kill all the young Israelite boys because he doesn't want them to grow up and to be the king or Pharaoh or to threaten him. And Moses is a young boy, young baby, and his mum and sister put him in the river. And the king's daughter, the princess, finds him there. And she ends up helping to take care of him. And she hires Moses' mum as the nurse to take care of him. And Moses grows up in the palace. And then in our stories, we pick it up. He sees his own people. They are slaves. They are in a sticky situation. And he tries to do something about it. So let's see what we learn from the glue. And let's see as we read this story from the Bible, from Exodus, let's see what we hear about Moses. And as I said, our reading comes from Exodus chapter 1 to 4. When he was a little older, Moses went walking one day near the mud pits where Israelites made bricks for Pharaoh. He saw an Egyptian cruelly beating an Israelite worker. Moses was so angry that he struck the Egyptian dead. Immediately Moses felt frightened. He had to escape before Egyptian soldiers caught him. So Moses fled Egypt, escaping to the land of Midian, where he worked as a shepherd for someone. Moses used to take the sheep out into the lonely desert. One day, as Moses was leading his sheep through the hot desert, he approached a great mountain called Sinai. Nearby, he noticed a bush on fire. But there was something strange. The bush burned and burned, yet it never burned away. Suddenly Moses heard a voice calling, "Moses! Moses!" "Here I am," Moses answered. "Come no nearer," ordered the solemn voice. "Take off your sandals. The place where you're standing is holy. I, God, am speaking." Moses was now trembling. He listened very carefully. "I have seen how cruelly the Egyptians are treating my people, the Israelites," God told Moses. "I am going to help them. You must go to Pharaoh and tell him to let my people go free. Then you will lead my people out of Egypt." "What, me?" said Moses, who was very fearful. "I can't possibly do that. No." "I will help you," God promised. But Moses was still scared. So God showed Moses just how powerful he was. But Moses was still scared. "Lord, please send someone else, not me," pleaded Moses. So God agreed to send Moses along with his brother Aaron too. So Moses left his sheep and returned to Egypt with his brother Aaron. He marched boldly up to Pharaoh's palace. Together they stood before the king of Egypt. "The God of Israel says, 'Let my people go.'" Pharaoh was furious that Moses and Aaron had dared to come to his palace, telling him what to do, and he did not let the Israelite slaves go. So we come to the second part of our reading from Exodus 5 to 14. Moses and Aaron entered Pharaoh's palace again. "The God of Israel says, 'Let my people go,'" said Aaron. "Do you think I'm going to do what your God says?" Pharaoh answered. "Forget it. If you disobey God," Moses warned, "he will turn the water of the river Nile to blood." "I will not let your people go," Pharaoh repeated. So God turned the water of the Nile to blood. No one could drink it. The fish all died. Moses and Aaron went to the palace yet again. "Ask your God to turn the blood back to water," Pharaoh pleaded. "When he does, I will let people go." So Moses prayed, "Lord, please turn the blood in the river back to water." And God did as Moses asked. But Pharaoh still did not let the Israelites go. God sent many other plagues on Egypt, floods and locusts and flies and sickness on the animals and sores and boils. But still Pharaoh would not let the people go. God said to Moses, "I am sending one last dreadful punishment. After that, Pharaoh will beg you to go." So Moses went before Pharaoh a final time. During the night, the eldest son in every Egyptian family is going to die, Moses told Pharaoh. "After that, you will plead with the Israelites to leave your country. Then I will take my people and go." Moses turned and hurried out of the palace. God gave Moses special instructions for that night. "Tell the Israelites to kill a lamb and mark their doorways with the lamb's blood," he said. "I will go through the land, killing the sons of the Egyptians. Where I see blood over the door, I will not kill your sons. I will pass over." That's terrible. That night, the eldest son in every Egyptian family died. Even Pharaoh's son died. Before it was even light, Pharaoh summoned Moses to his palace. "Get your people out of Egypt," he told Moses. Every Israelite family hurriedly packed everything they owned. Then the Israelites left quietly, taking with them their flocks and herds. They didn't want the Egyptians to hear them leaving. The people of Israel had started their long journey to Canaan, the promised land. Pharaoh changed his mind yet again. Harness the horses to your chariots. Chase down those Israelites and drag them back to Egypt, he ordered his soldiers. Soon the Israelites had reached the shore of the Red Sea. There they stopped. How could they cross the deep waters of the Red Sea? Suddenly the Israelites saw clouds of dust and heard pounding hooves. It was Pharaoh with his army. What can we do? The Israelites demanded. The Red Sea is in front of us, and Pharaoh and his army are behind us. We will all die here for sure. Then God gave Moses special instructions. Stretch out your hand, he told Moses. So Moses stretched out his hand, and at once a strong wind blew a dry path through the Red Sea, and the waters divided. The Israelites began to walk on dry land across the seabed. It wasn't long before they had all safely reached the opposite side. As soon as the last Israelite was safely across, Moses raised his hand again. The wind stopped and the water flooded back onto the seabed. Pharaoh, his chariots, and his soldiers all drowned. At last, the Israelites were free. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. It's an incredible story that we've just heard, and that's only part of the story. If you want to read more about Moses and the people in the wilderness and the journey to the promised land, you can do that in the second half of Exodus, and that's the second book in the Old Testament in the Bible. So let's remind ourselves what we've learnt using this PVA glue. Well, the PVA glue reminded us that it is something that is useful in lots of situations. It's very strong, it can stick lots of things, but the important thing that we learnt is that even though we can't see the glue when it dries, we know that it's there. We know that it is still strong. So let's apply that as we read and learn from the story, of course, which we found is about a sticky situation. The story was about the people of God who ended up being in Israel. And we learned about Moses and how he had done a terrible thing, even though he was trying to do the right thing. We learned that he finds himself looking after the sheep. And we learned that God calls him. Even though he's not perfect, God still calls him to do an incredible job. And I suppose what we learn from this passage is, firstly, that God sees the suffering of his people. They are slaves in Egypt. And it's a great reminder that when we go through difficult times, God sees that. And God is with us. God hasn't forgotten or abandoned us. Another theme that we learn is that we are called to love and respect God, to give God his place. We are not God and God is not like us. God is mightier and greater. And Moses at the burning bush witnessed and experienced that. As he stood on holy ground, he realized and God reminded him that God was greater and mightier than him. So sometimes we've got to remember that we've got to give God the reverence and respect he deserves. And I suppose the last thing that we learn is that God can use anybody. God can use Moses to do incredible things, and God can use each of us, even though we are imperfect, to do incredible things for him. He calls us to do incredible things for him. So it's an amazing story, a sticky situation, a reminder that God, even though we can't see him, is with us. God gives us strength. God gives us all we need to survive in hard times, and God can use each and all of us to serve him today in this world. So we're going to join together as we reflect on that story with a simple little chorus that reminds us how powerful God is, that when Moses and the people got to the Red Sea, that God was able even to separate the sea to allow the people to go across safely. And so we sing the song, How Did Moses Cross the Red Sea.